Hi guys! Today I wanted to do something a little bit different. In honor of it being spooky season, I'm going to be telling 4 different spooky stories while I decorate for fall and Halloween. I'll be designing 4 different rooms, each inspired by the different color variations of the pumpkins. So I'll be making a monochrome room, a green room, a yellow room, and an orange room. And if you stick around till the end of the video, I'll be announcing a fun Halloween giveaway. So now we'll get into the speed build. Okay, so the first story is from r/Let's Not Me on Reddit, and I'll link in the description box below the original post along with any other details. So this story is called I Was Home Alone. It was the middle of summer, and my parents had left for the weekend to go to our house in the Cape Cod. It's about a 2-hour drive away, so it's no big deal for them to leave me alone for a few days. My mom had made some pulled pork and pasta for me to heat up to eat whenever, and I had some money if I wanted to order pizza. Things were all good. The first night I was alone, I stayed up till 3 in the morning playing Xbox, so I woke up really late the next day. I checked my phone when I woke up and saw it was a little past 1. I had made plans to play some street hockey with my friends at 3, so I threw myself out of bed and stumbled into the shower. I take really long showers, so when my parents are gone, I go mental. I was in there for about 45 minutes on my phone scrolling through Reddit and Twitter and whatnot when I heard my front door open. The bathroom was directly up the stairs from the back door, and the thing is pretty loud when it opens and closes. I immediately froze, since obviously I was supposed to be alone. I waited for about 2 minutes, ears trained, trying to hear anything else. Nothing. I figured it was just the wind, or maybe my parents were home early, so I turned off the shower, wrapped my towel around myself, and slowly walked down the stairs to check it out. So the stairs to my kitchen, where the back door is, are pretty tight and walled in, so I can't see into the kitchen when I walk down. Even though my house is old and each step on the stairs makes a super loud creak, I still took my time and tried to be as quiet as possible. I probably took 45 seconds walking down all 12 of the stairs. So when I get to the second to last stair, right before I could see around the corner into the kitchen, I take a little breath to compose myself. In my mind, I knew I was being stupid. There obviously wasn't anyone in the kitchen. There's no way I wouldn't have heard another noise, and there's no reason for them to still be in the kitchen even if there were burglars or something in the house. After sort of mentally chastising myself for being such a wuss, I sort of chuckled to myself for being so stupid and just normally walked the last 2 stairs and turned the corner into the kitchen. Standing about 2 feet away from me in the middle of my kitchen is a man staring straight at me, perfectly still, with a massive smile across his face, just staring at me. The thing I remember most vividly wasn't his face or his smile, but his arms. They weren't just at his side. He held them in the strangest, most abnormal position I've ever seen. They were where one would normally hold their arms, but he had them rotated to the point where they were almost completely reversed, as well as lifting them up and a little behind himself. I don't know why I remember this so much, but it's just the most abnormal position I've ever seen. Honest to God, I think I almost had a heart attack right there. Looking back, I can realize how creepy this situation was, but in the moment, I just took a step towards him and punched him as hard as I could in the jaw, sort of half slapping, pushing him towards the ground. The second I connected, I beelined up the stairs, dropping my towel in the kitchen with my heart beating out of control. I sprinted into my room and locked the door behind me. I quickly put a chair up against the doorknob like you see in TV. Almost without thinking, I immediately called 911 and nearly in tears told the operator what happened. As I sat on the floor of my room in practically the fetal position, staring at the door, praying that a cop would be here soon, I noticed the light coming from the gap between my door had stopped. He was standing outside of my door. There's no words to describe the feeling I had. I was paralyzed with fear, watching the shadow across the bottom of the door shift in tiny ways. I stayed balled up, staring at the gap, praying the man would go away for what seemed like an hour. All the while, the 911 operator was asking, "Hello, sir? Are you there? Hello?" I didn't want to make a noise, and even if I wanted to move my arms to bring the phone to my mouth, I don't think I could have. Eventually, the light returned to the gap, and I heard the faintest of footsteps, slowly creaking the wooden floorboards as he walked down the hall. It was silent for minutes as I just sat there curled up, unable to even speak. I heard banging on the front door and the sound of 2 officers entering my house. I finally felt safe, and I opened the door to the 2 of them standing there. I almost cried. Nowadays, my parents don't even leave me home alone anymore. Thank God, and I check every lock on the house before going to bed. I still get nightmares occasionally, and my heart starts racing whenever I see someone standing still. But I'm doing alright. Even working with sketch artists and a few lineups, the police never found whoever was in my house. That sends shivers down my spine every time I look outside, half expecting to see him standing across the street smiling under a lamppost. I have no idea what he wanted or who he was, but regardless, let's not meet ever again. So the second story is also from r/let's not meet on Reddit, and again, I'll link all the info in the description box below. This one's called Stranger Under the Bed. I'm 22 and this incident happened a year and a half ago. I had just moved into my first apartment and was in the process of moving in. The door that led into my apartment locks itself automatically when closed, so I was going to the entrance of the apartment complex to get my mail while talking on the phone with my boyfriend. I returned to my apartment and sat on the bed while opening the mail while using the phone. I dropped the phone on the floor and it landed under the bed, so I had to lie on the floor and stretch for it. I saw something that caught my eye. There was someone under my bed. My eyes widened and I choked the urge to scream. The person under my bed was lying still with his back towards me and his head to his chest, so I couldn't see his face. And he didn't see me. Trying to be rational while so many thoughts rushed through my head, I picked up the phone and said, "Sorry, I dropped my phone. I'm just gonna take a shower and call you back." The bathroom is right by my bed, so I hastily walked in, quietly locked the door, turned the shower on, jumped out my window, my apartment is on the first floor, and called the police. They told me to wait nearby, but to go to across the street and see if anyone comes out the door to the apartment complex. This was during summer and it was still light out. I placed myself across the street, hiding behind a car while watching my open bathroom window and the entry door. I called my boyfriend and he came to me just before the police. I gave them my keys and they went inside. Only moments later, 2 cops came out holding a thin and tired-looking man. His eyes looked crazy, but he didn't try to get away. The policeman that had stood beside me and comforted me while the police searched through my house, I was a mess, shivering and crying, told me that the man stood outside my bathroom door with one of my kitchen knives, waiting for me to come out. This man had somehow crept in my entry door while I was getting my mail and hid under the bed. The man that was trying to hurt me turned out to be a homeless person and was placed in a mental hospital. My boyfriend moved in with me the very next day. This next story is from Grady Hendricks on Twitter, and again, I'll link the Twitter thread below in case you want to read it for yourself. When I turned 9, I realized I could sneak downstairs after everyone was asleep and eat anything I wanted in the fridge. No one ever noticed. I could make a peanut butter, cheese whiz, and mayo sandwich, eat leftover pizza, scrape off the icing from birthday cakes. As long as I was careful, I could do anything. Creeping down was the hardest part. I had to navigate the pitch dark house all the way downstairs in total darkness, like a tiny ninja. One night in May 81, we ordered from Fish and Shrimp House. I waited until everyone was asleep and crept downstairs to eat the leftover sweet and sour pork. It took forever. I finally stepped into the totally dark den and let down my guard. All of a sudden, I heard a fork click on the counter. I froze. The microwave clock light showed the outline of a man sitting at our kitchen counter. He couldn't see me, but I saw him. A skinny guy eating our leftovers and drinking our milk from the carton. I can't explain how terrifying it is for someone to be in your house. I slowly backed away, crept upstairs, and woke up my mom and dad. They made way too much noise and took way too long, and by the time they got downstairs, the kitchen was empty. Everyone said I read too many horror comics, so they blew off what I said, but no way was I pouring milk on my cereal. I started tracking the position of everything in the kitchen. One day, the paper napkin holder was on the wrong side of the counter. Another day, a mug was in the sink that was not there the night before. My bedroom door didn't lock, so I kept a steak knife under my pillow. I must have stabbed myself in the hand 1,000 times, checking to make sure it was there. Then in August, I was in my room reading when I looked up. There's an AC vent over my bed. Behind the vent, a pair of eyes were watching me. I freaked until my parents searched our attic and the crawl space under our house. Nothing. I wasn't very popular for a few weeks. The last week of August, our house started to smell. One night, rice fell out of the vent over my bed. Maggots. The AC people said something had probably crawled into our vents and died. Turns out, what had crawled into our vents and died was the guy. We lived in an old house with lots of space between the walls and big ducts. He'd been living in them since May, at least. He'd put a foam pad beside my bedroom vent so he'd be comfortable while he watched me. The police said he'd made lots of drawings, but when I asked, they pretended they hadn't said anything. No one ever identified him. He was buried as a John Doe. To this day, I can't look inside the vents in houses. But sometimes, when I'm at someone's house, I'll smell a little BO coming from their central air conditioning, and I'll wonder, who's living back there in their ducts? Who's living in the dark? The last story I'll read is also from r/letsnotmeet on Reddit. I am a 27-year-old woman, and this happened to me 9 or 10 years ago when I was a senior in high school. We lived in a pretty large house, but my siblings were all away at college or boarding school, so it was only my parents and I in the house. I am a crazy light sleeper, so when I woke up in the dark and saw my alarm clock flashing through 11 a.m., I wasn't too surprised. However, I was wide awake, not just groggily stirring in my sleep. I lay there wondering what had woken me when I heard very soft footsteps on the stairs outside my bedroom. The door to my room was parallel to the left side of the bed, and I happened to be laying with my back to the door. When the footsteps approached my door, I thought it must be one of my parents checking on me for some reason. Then the doorknob was turned, so slowly. Still, I thought they were just trying not to wake me. The door began to open, again, slowly and carefully. It made a creaking noise, no matter how slowly it was opened, so the person finally just shoved it the rest of the way to silence the creak. Still, my naive brain thought it was one of my parents, until they clicked on the flashlight. I froze. Terror flooded me, and I remember that I instantly broke out in a sweat. They were behind me, and I was facing away, so they couldn't see my eyes wide open as they shone the beam straight on me. I always used to think that if something like that ever happened, I would whip out of bed and punch them, attack them, shout, scream, do something, but I could do nothing at all. All I could do was try to keep my breathing deep and even, despite the pounding of my heart, so that the intruder wouldn't know I was awake. After about 10 seconds, they finally moved the light away. I prayed and begged and bartered with anything that would listen to me as the intruder walked around my room, looking at my things. I could vaguely see their shape, large and bulky, like they were wearing 2 coats. They had a baseball cap on. They didn't shine the flashlight on me again, and after a few minutes, which felt like an eternity, they left my room. I could still hear them, though, walking around the rest of the 2nd floor, through my siblings' empty bedrooms. I was still sweating, still frozen in terror, not knowing what to do. I wanted to grab my phone and call my dad, sleeping downstairs. I wanted to call our landline so that the phone would ring and wake my parents up. I wanted to call the police. I wanted to get up and run from my room. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't do any of those things. I was afraid that they would hear me, and I didn't know if they had a weapon and would try to hurt me or my parents. I wouldn't wish such helpless terror on my worst enemy. I don't know how, but I must have passed out from fear, or the adrenaline wore off and I fell asleep somehow, because the next thing I knew, it was 6 a.m. and I could hear my parents downstairs. I ran downstairs, and as calmly as I could, I asked them if one of them had been in my room last night. Their faces went blank, and they said no, they hadn't. That was the last straw. I broke down in sobs and told them there was someone in my room last night. Even as I type this, my hands have begun shaking, and I've teared up. The police were called, even though there was little they could do at that point. Apparently, when my parents woke up, all of the doors to the outside were standing wide open, and there was a duffel bag at the bottom of the stairs. All that was inside was a coil of nylon rope and an empty USB flash drive. I didn't want to think about what it was for. The intruder hadn't taken anything, and we have no idea why they left in what appeared to be a hurry. It took me about a week to be able to sleep in my own room again, a sanctuary which felt violated and frightening to me now. I carry pepper spray, sleep with a machete next to my bed, and double check my locks every night. Hopefully this will never happen to me again, but if it does, hopefully I won't freeze. It's been 10 years, and my most common nightmare is that someone is in my room, standing in the shadows, watching me. So here's my final walkthrough of all the rooms. I'm really happy with how they turned out. Each room ended up being pretty different from each other, which I thought was cool because it shows how much we can do with the pumpkins in the game. For the monochrome pumpkin style, I went with a more modern feel to the room. I think the white pumpkins look really chic and are a fun variation to play around with. For the green pumpkin style, I created a kind of witchy vibe for the room. I put in a lot of books and papers to be like spell books, and I placed a few different pots and kettles to be like different potions. I think the green pumpkin variation might be underrated because I think they look super cool in this room. For the orange pumpkins, I just wanted to make a room that you would think of when someone says fall. I just wanted the traditional reds, oranges, and browns of fall with more natural looking furniture. So I have a little apple cider stand and a place to sit with friends to be cozy by the fire, and I really like how this one turned out. The yellow pumpkins are quite similar to the orange pumpkins, but they're super cute and a bit more playful than the other variations. So I went with a more pastel kind of cute theme to go with the yellow pumpkins. And I have two kind of arts and crafts areas where you could work on the pumpkin patch flyers that could be posted around the island. And I also have this area to try on different Halloween costumes and just play around with different looks. And I think this room turned out really fun and playful, and I really like it. And now for the giveaway announcement. One person will be able to win the full spooky DIY set, including the spooky garland, spooky carriage, spooky table setting, and spooky wand DIYs that won't be available until October 31st. You'll also receive Jack's face and robes and Jack's poster, and I'll also include one full stack of lollipops, candy, and each pumpkin variation. All you have to do to enter is like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and drop me a comment telling me what your favorite part of this season is. I'll update the description box of this video with the winner on October 23rd, as well as on my Instagram. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.